is the fact that they have so many recent CLG games to watch. The third place match and the series against FlyQuest both happened within the last 2 weeks, and that's a lot of film to watch.
Yeah, and as we talk about this a lot, like, who would you rather be? In this particular situation, I would rather be CLG. I would rather have played yesterday, get used to the meta, get used to playing on stage again, rather than having all this time off like Cloud9 does. So there are pros and cons to the situation that both of these teams are in, and I can't wait to see this series.
Well, it's going to start, of course, in Champsite here at game number 1. No preparation needed for this first ban for Cloud9. Aurelion Sol taken away, Cho'Gath will join, and then Galio Jarvan, the first two on the right side for CLG.
And Galio making a bit of a resurgence in this Worlds qualifying tournament. We saw a lot of it actually from high, and people have been favoring it pretty highly in the mid lane. J4 as well has been so big throughout the later stages of the season.
Yeah, and if we're using last series as a test for what CLG sees as the big meta champions, just look at this ban phase versus what was first pickable last series. First pick Cho'Gath would have been on the radar. Jarvan, Rakan, Kalista, all those would have just been first pick worthy champions. And knowing C9 selected blue side, CLG was just trying to get rid of the things that they thought C9 might want to first pick.
Yep, 2 marksmen banned actually as the final ones. Kalista for C9 and Xayah for CLG. This does leave open Rakan, but CLG already took the other half of the duo away. But this has been the support pick to me so far.
Yeah, it has been very big, but we saw Aphromoo was already very happy to play Thresh into this, so that's still on the table. Something that CLG also has access to here is Gragas, which FlyQuest was constantly banning away from Omargod. Omargod has been playing exclusively tank junglers in playoffs and in this tournament itself, so would not surprise me to see the Gragas pick up and perhaps something along the lines of a Tristana.
Or even Thresh, depending on how early they want to get their support locked in versus having any type of counter pick on AD carry. Trist is such a strong AD carry, and you often see a Trist ban go hand in hand with the Kalista ban. But it is going to be the Thresh, most likely.
Keep it safe so far. Just take the Thresh. Don't give away too much information. I mean, Thresh was probably the expected pick for C9, and Gragas is Omar's most played champion by a lot, like at least 10 more games than any other champion he's had so far in his LCS career. So certainly feeling comfortable on the pick. We'll see what Cloud9 respond with here for these next 2 picks.
It is going to be interesting to see if they actually decide to early pick any of their solo laners, or if they're going to kind of maintain parity and grab a jungler here as well. Because there is always the chance to have that first round counter pick for CLG on the red side if a solo laner is selected.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of options open here, and we haven't been able to scout C9 from the draft phase. So the question will be, are they playing a similar meta to FlyQuest, who may have been one of their largest scrim partners? It is always more difficult to draft against Huhi because he plays all the meta mids plus 2 or 3 with Aurelion Sol and even Vel'Koz being on the table. So a pretty conservative Maokai pick right there. Can go top lane, can go jungle.
And this does mean that we're not going to have parity in this first round of picks, right? So we could see something like the counter pick. That's one of the advantages on the red side, is you actually do get essentially double counter pick if your opponents decide to go for an early solo laner. That's assuming, though, that the Maokai is going top, right? Yeah. That's what this Gnar pick is doing, because the Maokai still could be flexed to jungle, and we could see Impact change it up and go for something if he feels that this is disadvantageous.
Yeah, even just yesterday we saw Omargod play jungle Maokai, but C9 will maintain that flexibility. I think, just based on their tendencies, that would be a top lane choice for Impact. But like we said, it has been so many weeks since we've seen C9 on stage, and it is a bad matchup against the Gnar from a laning perspective. The mini Gnar will win that early, but the gank assist can be very strong depending on what type of jungler C9 brings.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, while it is seen as somewhat of a lane counter, if you have an aggressive jungler, you can shut down the Gnar very heavily. And Maokai is so powerful in the teamfights and much easier to execute in those teamfights than the Gnar. So you need to have that lane success, I feel, to have equal or more value than the Maokai.
Well, already a lot of changes here in the second phase of bans. Lucian banned by CLG, taking that mid pick away, and Kog'Maw kind of hitting marksman now for Cloud9, trying to take away some of Stixxay's options. So we'll see if CLG go again with a mid lane ban, but no, instead it's actually Rek'Sai that they take away from contracts.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a security ban, I feel like, for CLG, especially since they don't know what is the jungler for contracts, and because Contracts was great at ganking mid lane on specifically Rek'Sai if C9 wanted to take over the game that way, and they're just getting rid of that because they actually I don't think they have that much fear of the other things that C9 could pick.
It'll be pretty interesting to see if Contracts does elect to go for an aggressive jungler because, we talked about the fact Omar God plays almost exclusively tanks. Well, Contracts, that's not the case. This is a guy who has had incredible Kayn performances, Rengar performances. He plays a ton of Elise. He plays a lot of aggressive junglers. It's not that he can't or won't play the tanks as well, but sometimes that's an area where you can exploit that mid jungle 2v2 if you are going to be trying to focus on that with Jensen, is by drafting early power, and especially alongside a Syndra, something like an Elise could be pretty devastating.
I like the Orianna choice by CLG, mainly because that was Jensen's bread and butter during the regular season. He had more quality Orianna performances than anyone else, and Huhi has been flexing his champion pool muscles for quite some time now. It does mean he's going for a skill matchup there against the Syndra, and they're betting that Huhi's going to be very strong in this pick, even if it's not, necessarily playing too much to Huhi's strengths.
It does also set up somewhat for maybe more of a hyper carry style AD carry. Leaving that chip pick for last does kind of make me feel like, hey, maybe there's a chance of it being something like a Twitch or something along those lines. And we are going to get the very aggressive jungle pick here from Contracts. Nidalee coming out, and we did actually see a one Nidalee game, I believe, in playoffs.
Moon.
Yeah, Moon brought it out, and that was actually the game that they won.
They did win that game in the first series they had against Team Dignitas.
Well, it's kind of an interesting one here, but this was my worry with the Ori pick. Yes, it does deny it from Jensen, but you're asking for an aggressive 2v2 between mid and jungle, but CLG, they value their last pick for Styx, and it will be Caitlyn. You kind of can tell from the picks that they had already, but huge, heavy team fighting here for CLG. This is a place they're very comfortable to sit in.
And one concern I do have about the Cloud9 comp, and this is something that I always think of a lot as someone who plays top and jungle, is this is 3 magic damage people on the top side of the map. It's AP top, AP jungle, AP mid laner. That means you can itemize so effectively against that. If you are itemizing defensively as a Gnar, you're going into an early Maw, not only does it help you so well against your laner, it helps you against the guy who might roam to you, it helps you against the jungler who will gank you. And that can kind of really pose some problems as far as item efficiency.
Well, definitely be interesting to see if the top side can get aggressive at Cloud9, because it feels like that's what they want to be doing on the bot side. Lots of farming, but you can, of course, see plenty of plays, and Smoothie and Aphromoo are some of the best playmakers on some of the best playmaking champs. So we kind of said it, this is why the matchup's so close. There is star power across the rift for both these teams.
Yeah, and Styx and Aphromoo are looking to build on their success yesterday. They got multiple solo kills, or rather 2v2 kills in their lane, game 3 against FlyQuest with Caitlyn Thresh. So they're going to be looking to that again.
And if they could actually do that against Cloud9, this is the sole source of physical damage for their proposition. Sneaky needs to have a good game on the Tristana to shut down magic resist stacking as this easy option for CLG. So the Caitlyn Thresh could be a critical part here for that 2v2.
Well, we'll see what happens here as we move out onto Summoner's Rift for game 1 of Cloud9 versus CLG. It has been a long time since C9 fans have been able to cheer for them again, but they'll have their chance here and possibly their final best of 5 for the season. CLG looking to continue a epic run of momentum so far as well, as of course people are cheering for TSM.
Yeah, and I'm going to speculate a little bit here. Based on what we saw in Champion Select and some of the interviews we've heard from FlyQuest. If you remember Elimination yesterday saying that if they beat CLG, he thinks they're going to Worlds. Knowing, of course, that if they beat CLG, they'd still have to face C9. Looking at the fact that CLG was banning out Jarvan Galio very heavily, which was what FlyQuest was prioritizing so heavily, and the fact that both contracts of Moon had played Nidalee now in the regional qualifier, makes me think they were scrimming each other a lot and picking up a lot of the same meta trends. So if FlyQuest is confident against C9, that tells you that FlyQuest is doing very well against C9 in scrims. So based on that speculation, saying it is just speculation and it is scrims, you would think that C9 may not have been performing that great.
We'll certainly have to see. A lot of weight on this organization's shoulders. Both teams, of course, have been practicing very hard. But for now, everyone's just kind of scattered across the rift at level 1. Looks like no deep wards placed just yet. Just a couple of dueling wards there in the topside river. And CLG trying to get a bit of vision, but no one going to go too far forward here.
A little bit interesting to see Omar God actually elect to go over and start the blue. He's going to have a leash there, not actually going to be starting on Raptors. And this is something that I sometimes see players doing against Nidalees because the Nidalee has such a fast clear. They want to have that kind of boosted speed with this big leash from the bot lane, and we'll see if he can maybe meet up with the Nidalee later on.
And they're also trying to make sure they're not getting that low in the jungle. A lot of times if you're doing a Raptors to a red buff, you are unhealthy in the jungle, but also just trying to rush from buff to buff as quickly as possible to prevent Nidalee from getting that as well. As that's what Contract is doing. He's going buff to buff.
Looks like both of them actually getting there pretty quickly. Contract's already onto the blue that was watered out by Darshan from the top side. That did give Impact a little bit of early priority in the lane, but Contract, as expected, flies through the jungle. Going to take down that blue and work on Grump and Omar. I think just trying to match and shadow Contract towards his top side.
And the fact that he's not going to be vulnerable to that counter jungle, not going to be vulnerable to some of those earlier invades because they got the ward down on him, because he has gone buff to buff, will help him out a little bit. And they saw that he was actually heading up for what would be a potential counter jungle now. So CLG definitely has the information. We'll see how they're going to be able to react here. Because, oh my god, it's going to be fine for now.
Yeah, so they know that Contracts would either be in River or have taken this path over. Relatively common nowadays, actually, to see Krug's counter jungle on the first clear. Impact with a push in the lane against Darshan as well makes Contracts a little more comfortable making that invade.
Certainly does. It's going to be a bit of a scary position for Darshan, though, as the wave is actually going to bounce. And as it bounces out, if Contracts is staying up there, we talked about how effective the gank assist is for Impact, but likewise, CLG looking to make a move here on Jensen.
Oh, pressure, great flash, body slam, Jensen forth the back, Thunderlord proc, stun does land, Omar though, still on the chase, but it's not enough to kill Jensen.
Oh man, so Jensen narrowly escapes that by getting the stun. They're trying to counter gank, but Jensen is so low. Knowing that who he is down on mana and Omar God has no flash, they're going to be confident shoving this one out for the reset.
Yeah, this is nice from Nidalee coming in here. Contract's just going to heal up Jensen, allow him to push out so he can actually reset, get healed right back up to full. But really good job with the scatter of the week. That was so critical. It looked like it actually connected on both members, which barely keeps him alive. That should have been a kill.
Jensen, very greedy recall spot. Nice ward there in the lane from Huhi to spot that, but Jensen is going to be delayed a little bit. Huhi also going to go back and will reset mid lane. This time, though, Jensen knows someone is.
Yeah, and one of the questions you ask yourself every time you're starting a CLG game is, where is Omar God going to focus? Because he, more than a lot of other junglers, does seem like he is almost told where to go by his laner sometimes. So when he's gone around the bot lane and focus, that didn't work out very well for CLG. But in the series that they have won, and he's had a top lane or a mid lane focus, it has been a lot more successful. That pathing that Omar God took was very effective to potentially set up a mid lane kill. They just couldn't quite compute, or rather complete the gank to get the first play.
Things going to settle back down here as Omar going to make his first back. Contract staying out on the Rift for a little while longer. One of the advantages of a champion like Nidalee. Can really power farm through the jungle nice and quickly. Bot lane, though, has been pretty even. Sneaky down 10 CS as the wave crashes towards them. Looks like 6A and Afro kind of abusing Caitlyn's range and Thresh's general dominance to at least get some sort of leg up here in the lane.
And they kind of have to, honestly, because Caitlyn's strength, while it is still very high during that laning phase, it does drop off a fair bit as you're going into the later stages of the game because of some of the nerfs she has received as far as attack speed scaling, among other things. So you need to get that lead because that's how the Challenger champion is balanced, right? You're expected to be ahead.
And you can see they have some pretty good forward wards in that bottom lane as well to try and prevent any type of Nidalee gank. But Omar God doing a pretty solid job of at least tracking the Nidalee, but already about 300 gold behind the farm.
Yeah, XP starting to add up there as well. You can see Contracts 5-4 right now as he's continuing to move through his jungle. Nice D ward as well. Takes out that little ward that Darshan, I assume, placed in the intersection by control warding the blue buff, and that's going to set it up nicely for that next respawn. So a lot of little jungle movements early on, and Omar's good attempt in mid lane didn't quite come true, but still looking good, and Jensen not going to have his flash for still about half the cooldown if he wants to revisit there.
Nidalee is also here, though. This is going to be a 2v2 potentially.
Getting aggressive. No ultimates here just yet. Jensen forced to run away as Omar shows himself in the mid lane. Contract's going to tap with an auto attack there. Spear going to look, finds Huhi. Massive amount of damage, and Huhi going to have to respect a lot more now.
Yeah, Contracts do not want to jump in because Omar had saved body slam and would have been able to interrupt the pounce from Contracts and maybe burst him down, but still a nicely woven spear there to the minion wave.
Yeah, and the XP advantage is kind of showing themselves as Contracts did hit 6 in the midst of that skirmish, so quite a bit ahead of Omar God, not just as far as gold, but experience as well. And with Syndra at 6 here now too, CLG is going to have to play it a little bit more carefully.
Yeah, and CLG doing a lot of cute things with their wards. They're putting them in spaces where C9 isn't necessarily expecting to see them. You notice Stixay spending extra time there to run behind Dragon Pit and put the ward right next to the Blast Cone. More likely to track Contracts' actual gank path, since so many junglers don't even bother going through the tri-brush anymore, so it's always forward.
Ooh, getting aggressive as well. I think someone spotted Afro as Sneaky leaps forward. Rakan looking for a knock-up, not quite there. Quill's gonna land, but Smoothie just gonna have to back away.
Pretty cool play there, though, from Stixay. Holds on to his heal, holds on to his flash, playing it very calm and collected. Will be able to heal up somewhat with his potion and Warlords, but it's a nice attempt at least for C9.
C9 also holding on to their Ignite. Afro, of course, has his as well, but can still see some aggression as Contracts finds a ward here in the top lane. Gonna make Darshan play a little more carefully.
And I mean, Darshan is already playing very carefully, even just with the item build. Going for the Merc Treads first shows how scared he is actually of not the 1v1 kill, but the gank assist. The fact that the Maokai can actually lock him up for the spears coming in from mid.
Contracts to get spotted on a ward, I think just barely by CLG, so gank attempt in mid is going to fall short.
Yeah, I will say, aside from the first stun Jensen landed when avoiding the flash gank by Omar God, he hasn't been able to get Huhi with stun. So Huhi's positioning very well in this lane to dodge out a lot of things. And to get back to what Azale was just saying, the Maokai Nidalee combo is a pretty classic combo from back when Nidalee was meta. The Maokai locks him down, the Nidalee would just kill that lane again and again and get farmed to take over the game. So that's exactly what Darshan is afraid of.
And Darshan, honestly, to me, is playing this lane a little bit poorly. He's actually been hit by so many of the empowered saplings in the side brush, and that's something you have to be so cognizant of because it's so much of Maokai's power. You need to be willing to play that lane down to the bottom side.
Out here, Omar's got an angle.
Contracts aggression a little too much, gonna hop straight into Gragas is waiting up, Darshan leaps over the wall, the casket's good, and Contracts is gonna go down!
Beautiful collapse there by CLG and a greedy counter jungle path there by Contracts, trying to keep the power farming up, but the patience there of the cast from Omar God secures the kill.
Yeah, fantastic casking from Omar God. The body slam very wide made me think he might have been able to get away, but Darshan ends up with the red buff now too. He might go down to Impact though.
Impact still very aggressive. Darshan forced to back away. Sapling gonna chase, but Impact not gonna let Hyper proc again. Remember, Omar still there as Huhi roams up towards the left. Jensen
still got the blue, even though CLG was making a two-man invade to get it. Must have pulled it away with Cinder, but watching this one more time, Contracts jumps, uh-oh, there's a Gragas. Instant flash, Omar missed his body slam because of the flash, and then Impact couldn't really go in to save him since not only did they have two people there, Huhi was already on the roam.
And it's the power of the warding. That tri-brush ward caught Contracts going up for the counter jungle, and that allows them to make that collapse. And very, very important to get this kill onto Darshan, to get him going in these lanes, because so far Impact has actually been doing very well in the lane matchup and was actually winning it.
Yeah, and having the red buff allows him to bully that lane to a whole new level. Impact also not on the same recall timing as Darshan, sticking around for this wave. Has the TP advantage, but doesn't want to leave while the wave is pushed because he'd lose most of his turret to Nod.
Yeah, he's got a lot of gold to spend, so I think might have to TP back to the lane. Darshan aggressively got back there, now has a phase completed.
Yeah, and Impact basically just wanted to wait for the cannon wave, because the cannon wave means you're not going to lose much, if any, farm.
Yeah, it means he'll TP back as well.
Gonna have to, but Darshan keeps up a little bit of extra pressure. Turret's still pretty low, but Impact returns to clear the minion wave out from under it. Darshan now gonna go off and ward, and we're gonna return back to parity. CLG, a very slight gold lead after that first blood. Gold went over to Nah, but C9 already right side making a play for this Drake. Trying to take down the Ocean.
This is actually very well timed. It's going to be their dragon, and a pretty early Ocean is actually so impactful. I think especially for a champion like Nidalee, who loves to set up, in these sieging type situations, loves to be throwing spears, healing up teammates through poke. Just really well timed around the fact that CLG's bot lane went back to base.
We can see they already got their Berserker Greaves, but looks like Gold and Spam is very even between the two bot laners. Darshan about to transform. Impact trying to make a play, perhaps ducks behind the minion wave to dodge out from that Penguin. Impact again still playing the lane very well with those saplings as Jensen taking that ward out on the left. Afro looking for the play, finds it Sneaky. Still able to jump out of the way. Smoothie W's out. No, my God, not there in time.
Sneaky actually buffered the Buster shot there to ultimate Afro move back, making it so that Afro move was not able to get a follow-up hook on that flash play. Really nice play from him, and they get that summoner spell out for free.
Yeah, not to mention the Lantern then doesn't take Omar God in where they want him, so really critical cooldown to save him on that gank, and that's a decent amount invested by CLG flashing in, but they still have the numbers advantage here, right? Nidalee's trying to pressure the other side, and they're almost going for a turret trade, which means Sneaky can't step up to that turret, and they're going to lose this race for first turret anyway.
Yeah, C9 going top lane actually with their mid laner trying to take this turret down, but going to lose pretty handily. CLG with the 3 men on it first, able to take down that first turret gold.
That's actually really nice for them because Huhi also is going to get some alone time in mid lane, be able to deny a good portion of that wave as Jensen is now coming down, and they can counter jungle for that red buff. So CLG certainly getting the better of this play thanks to the 2v2 dominant lane that they've drafted.
Yeah, just a macro win there for CLG because specifically the mid lane roam from Jensen was pretty unnecessary. He took about 2 auto attacks on the turret, walked through a controller twice that he didn't clear because he wanted to get back to mid lane. And they're going to lose the turret trade anyways, so now it opens them up to not only lose that first turret, but also to lose control in their red side jungle.
This was the extended play for C9, but it is spotted for CLG as Darshan going to take the Rift Herald away. Might even keep it on the leash, but no, it does go back to the pit as Afro hooks the Scuttle Crab. Oni and Omar going to do some team jungling, perhaps. Getting vision of that buff there, and C9 unfortunately tried to take something extra, but didn't quite have enough tempo to get that objective as Huhi going to solo out his blue buff.
Yeah, and with all of that, right, the game is still only a 200 gold difference. The Maokai is farming well, the mid lane is equal in farm. Most of the gold that is staying even will be the fact that Contracts is plus 400 gold on Gragas, but that doesn't mean that much as Nidalee is such a fast farmer. What will be interesting is if the pace stays this slow, how C9's composition scales into the late game.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit concerned about Nidalee's going into that late game because I do feel that it's very hard to have the same level of contribution as a Gragas in the team fights. It's hard to find those spears on carries. It's hard when you're this squishy champion to actually dive in and utilize your full kit. And if you're relegated to just throwing spears, to just utilizing your heal, you often just aren't that useful.
Yeah, I do wonder, though, how much benefit they can get just from a Nidalee healing the Trist for the attack speed, who's already going to be a stronger late-game carry than the Caitlyn.
Oh, a bit of
this is the type of stuff
for Contracts. Great hook there from Afro. Going to move back into the play. Can't get over the wall. Pounce not successful, and Stixay claims the gold.
I mean, that was very silly from Contracts, though. He goes in, he's clearing a full control ward, knowing that the jungler could be around, knowing that the bot lane is right there, and he gets punished quite heavily. Plus, Stixay gets that kill, which is so nice for CLG. They already had the addition of that extra turret gold on him. Now he picks up the kill gold, so that's going to give him a pretty decent edge over Sneaky. And despite the scaling advantage for Tristana, when Caitlyn is 7,000 or 700 gold ahead, not at 7,000, it is going to pretty much even that out.
Now watch this one more time. Contracts sees the control ward. There's a Gragas right there. Doesn't know it until now. But then it's just a matter of CC chaining. Wants to save his flash, gets flayed out of his jump. Even if he flashed, he would have most likely been dead since anyone from CLG could flash follow.
And they actually had the one ward above the Tri-Brush that wasn't blocked out by the Vision ward. So he did an extra auto or two on that pink ward after seeing the Gragas. Stayed around for
through
it.
the lane. So
yeah, you still spotted when he walked through the Tri-Brush.
Well, instead, Context Greed cost him again in CLG's half of the map. He's the 2 deaths for Cloud9 right now, and CLG's 2 kills, of course. And unfortunately, it's been him a little too far forward is the reason that he's gone down. Still gold nice and tight. CLG up about 1,000 gold at this stage of the game. Static Shift completed for Stixay. That'll help the farming through that mid-game, but Sneaky should be right there very soon as well. He's been able to keep up decently in farm.
yeah, absolutely. Still a fairly close game, but if C9 keep getting picked off like this, it could get out of control, especially with Static Shiv on the Caitlyn. That's a moment in time where they can push a lot of lanes, and the more they can keep Jensen from getting any type of lane advantage, the better it is for CLG.
This does expose Stixay somewhat, though, as multiple members from CLG were over by that mid lane, so Stixay smartly backing off to avoid the dive, and they're taking a lot of damage on this turret from the Tristana. They will get down. And looks like they should be able to defend, though.
Yeah, no minion wave there just yet, so C9 going to have to hold off on the play. We'll push this wave a little further forward, but don't think there's anything else they can try and get. They may stay around for it. Looks like CLG are trying to defend and maybe even force a team fight, but Tara just needs a few more autos, and Sneaky should be able to finish it off, and does do so. Darshana is almost trading on this top half of the map, so Impact can have to stay around and defend this turret pretty heavily if he wants to keep it up.
Definitely have to say, though,
Nice bit of damage. Heal burn from Huhi, but not enough to get the kill.
pretty impressive laning phase from Impact. You know, this is the counter pick for Darshan. Darshan got first blood, gifted over to him, and a red buff from Impact's jungler, and Impact is still up a bit in farm. So I think he's being really, really impressive on this Maokai, and the teamfight effectiveness of this champion is so high. So it's going to be interesting to see how the two players can perform when that teamfight stage does come around.
Yeah, because that's then going to become a game of how much split push pressure can Darshan apply. Also, how much of a split push build does Darshan go versus how well Impact can teleport in. Because if Darshan goes Frozen Mallet, even if he goes further offensive like a Maw or something like that, he's going to be able to win that almost no matter what later on in the game. But if Impact can keep the wave shoved like he just did there, these are the windows where he would be able to make it into team fights.
Looks like Darshan is going to just knock down that turret though. Impact probably not willing to burn the teleport to keep it up, as Contract's going to take down this red buff. Safe enough right now, but Clouddrake is up. So CLG going to be the ones to start the objective. Not sure there's a window here for Cloud9 to really get an angle going. Impact does save the turret for now, but CLG are going to claim the second Drake. Splitting an Ocean for a Cloud doesn't feel too bad on either side, but both teams all know have one. And the next one will be an Infernal, so maybe a bit more action around that objective.
Exactly, it keeps the game very close. We're yet to see really the first big source of conflict. Both Drakes have been taken mostly off of recall timings, right? So yet to see these teams really go all in on each other, even though both of them have pretty good initiation options.
Cloud9 staying active here though, actually forcing on this Rift Herald. Looks like CLG might not want to poke their heads too far out of the way. Jensen's pressure in the mid lane's actually been pretty good in the last few minutes, and Cloud9 have just enough space with Impact returning and Darshan recalling and splitting down bot side that they actually are going to claim the Rift Herald, but don't have that long to use it. We'll see if they can get this turret here in mid.
Seems to could actually pull off a dive or get a kill before they drop their Rift Herald. They could really cash on that investment, but there are some different ways you can use it. It's also very interesting to me when you get the really late Rift Heralds like this, because it can open up opportunities to pressure the Baron. You can do plays like dropping the Rift Herald in the bot lane and base, and then you all rush towards the Baron, and people either answer one or the other. Oftentimes they cannot do both, but instead they are going to just try to knock down this mid lane turret.
Yep, just needs to charge here. Should be enough to take it down, and there it is in one fell swoop. Rift Herald able to claim that mid outer turret. C9 up a couple of turrets right now, but breaking open that mid, always a good thing in there in the mid game.
Yeah, and now the need for C9 is to not just completely abandon the mid lane and allow CLG to get a trade back. The fact that they are the ones that are up 3 turrets to 1 is what's keeping the gold close in this game, since they are still yet to find their kill. But now with no objectives down, you wonder where the next play is going to be made.
Smoothie actually backs off here, and Jensen also kind of moving. So with Sneaky being sent top lane to get that farm, and Impact pressuring down the other side with Drake not up for a little while longer and Baron about to spawn. Kind of interesting to see where C9 kind of move their laners around, and CLG have also been very active on the map since it's opening up. Yes, they have a bit more constriction about where they can move due to the fact that they're still down in turrets, but Afro and Smoothie have both been very active, especially paired next to their junglers. So, like you said, Jack, we haven't had a major conflict just yet, but one is certainly brewing in this game.
Yeah, good sweep there by Smoothie, not having the upgraded sweeper yet, but tracking the ward outside the Baron pit. That's definitely where they're looking. Oh, there's the flash.
Back in Huhi. Little asleep at the keyboard there. Jensen burns his thumbs, but he gets away.
That was very strange. It almost looked like Huhi wasn't entering any inputs or was looking somewhere else as Omar God went for the flash play, because you're normally expecting the cast to hit someone into a shockwave, but Huhi was just sitting there. Would love to see a replay starting on that angle to see if he had just used his cooldown somewhere else, because that's a lot burned from Omar to not pick up the kill on Jensen.
Yeah, it's also kind of interesting to think that we're at level 8 on the Rakan, and we have yet to actually see a Rakan combo come out. Smoothie, certainly known for his roaming, known for his playmaking, has not yet decided to actually commit the ultimate to look for any plays, so certainly playing it very close to the chest, and teams kind of sometimes are a little bit more hesitant to be aggressive, to actually do anything in these playoff games.
He was stunned from Jensen's QE. We just didn't catch the stun as we were coming back, so able to outplay that a little bit, but maybe Jensen, just lucky timing on the stun.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, twice in a row now when the flash body slam is committed, he's able to land the critical scatter of the week. I mean, on the initial gank and this one, so certainly some credit to Jensen. He is down in farm, but has been getting pressured relatively heavily and has not been able to get ahead on this sim.
Oh no, now Impact's gonna try and convert the gank, and easy off of Jensen, and C9 finally on the board.
Yeah, really interesting sequence of events there as CLG was prepping to push the top lane turret and trying to clear wards to prevent a flank TP from the Maokai, but C9 had other plans in mind, actually had roamed Impact down to get the flash kill onto Who.
Yeah, the reveal of the Righteous Glory. Use the Righteous Glory, utilize the flash, get right onto Huhi. Darshan is pushing on the bot side, but Impact's actually able to get down there and collect most of that wave as well. So doing very, very well for himself. And to answer some of the questions that we had earlier, Darshan does look like he's going towards the Frozen Mallet, so much more of the split push 1v1 style build, but has yet to be able to kind of cash in on his investment for that split push style.
C9 continuing to rotate around, trying to pressure this tier 2 turret in top lane. Sneaky has been almost full time in this sideway for the last few minutes, collecting a lot of farm. Still needs to go back and spend 1,300 gold. Stixxay, as you can see, already completing his Infinity Edge and has a very healthy CS lead still in addition to that kill. So certainly things looking good for both bot laners, but we'll watch this again here as Impact makes the play.
Yeah, Righteous Glory, flash, Twisted Advance. You have to flash early if you're going to at all, because once the Twisted Advance is cast, it will follow you after that flash. Just a nice CC combo for Impact, just ganking him straight up the lane.
So straightforward of a gank as well, but sometimes that's the most effective way, especially when you look at the way wards are just littered around the map right there. Very rarely do they expect it to come straight through the mid lane.
I also love going for aggressive plays like that right after you've completed the Righteous Glory, because there hasn't really been an opportunity for people to be like, okay, he has the Righteous Glory, watch out for the flank, watch out for the engage, and you're sometimes just not really thinking about the possibility that he could have made that buy, which allows him to pull off a nice play.
All right, well, CLG have certainly had enough by the looks of things, grouping up 4 strong in the mid lane and knocking that down. Sneaky trying to trade, but not enough presence from the rest of his team on the left side of the map to try and make it happen, although maybe now just spotting Darshan. CLG actually go right for the Infernal that's about to spawn.
Yeah, C9 not going for the Infernal Drake whatsoever, instead trading a turret for it. So a very non-interactive game so far. Teams just opting for different objectives. In this scenario, I'd much rather take the Infernal as CLG, knowing this game's going pretty late.
Feels like C9 are kind of knowing you're in a bit of a trough, have to play through it perhaps, as Sneaky does steal the red buff.
One thing that C9 have gotten for themselves, though, on the top side is look at the incredible vision line they have of pinks across that top side river, around the Baron, and even in CLG's jungle. If you actually toggle vision, you'll see that CLG has no vision whatsoever really around that Baron.
That might be an opening here for C9 to start a team fight.
This would be the window where you wait for the Rakan engage to happen. You can start a Maokai ultimate from Fog of War. You can fly in with the Rakan, but then you have to just wonder, does C9 have the confidence to pull the trigger here? Their macro game was one of their issues during the regular season. If they didn't snowball and crush their lanes, oftentimes you wouldn't see them winning that many games in the summer split. So they need to be able to capitalize on the setup they have created.
And Sneaky stayed top lane, so C9 really committing to getting this Tristana as much farm as possible.
Yeah, Darshan has shown bot side, so this would be the time for CLG to kind of play a bit more safe. C9 could try to push and start up the Baron, try to force out a teleport, but if you actually just sit and give Darshan this time in the side lane, that's going to be pushing against you. It's going to reset the whole process, because Impact will have to go bot, have to answer this wave.
C9 want to pick here, but Huhi able to play defensive, has the Banshees finished already, mirroring that purchase from Syndra, so very safe again. CLG able to play together and just kind of outthink C9 here.
Yeah, and I really wonder why C9 is even running towards mid lane when there's one blue trinket on CLG.
Could get picked.
They have to check.
They found Sneaky though, and now they've seen one more. I believe it's contracts, but just barely. CLG, that's enough information. They're just backing away.
You just stepped out of the bush. What was that?
Yeah, really sloppy play here by C9 in this sequence.
They have to go now, but Darshan finally going to TP in. It's the tank they go for, but the contract's going to get set up in the front. Jensen going to take down Omar. Oh no, Darshan gets him, but just barely. Lands in a stick. They're going to go down to Jensen, who grabs the double. Darshan trying to salvage the fight, does take down contracts, but he now transformed. He's going to have to fight 1v4. Huhi still there, but he already burnt the shockwave, and Jensen grabs the triple kill.
Yeah, Darshan tried to commit 4 contracts to prevent a Baron from being taken. We'll see if he was successful, but C9 is going to push regardless, and they could be at the inhibitor turret here pretty quickly.
They still get a team fight win off the setup. Omar God, though, after they had already seen the Baron wasn't actively being engaged on, walks back in. Darshan's TP is late by the time Omar God is down, and they win the fight regardless, but then they don't pull for Baron right afterwards, which seemed like you would want to do it knowing their jungler is down. They didn't want to risk it, I think.
And this is one that I just don't think CLG should be moving up for. Even if Darshan TP'd instantly, he didn't have Mega Gnar. It's hard to have that immediate impact, and their front line's already down. It's the Maokai ultimate actually catching Stixxay there from a decent range. So Stixxay just not actually seeing it coming down from the top of the screen, goes over the wall. That long duration route means he is going down, and that slight kind of loss of focus of the Maokai ultimate really did cost them so much.
And all of a sudden, Jensen, who is a little bit behind Huhi in a laning phase, is 4 kills. All of C9's kills, actually, he's been the recipient of, and now has a full item ahead there of Huhi, who's got that blast one building into, I assume, Aleandri's of his own. So all of a sudden, C9 with a lot of power back around the Baron.
Yeah, and I thought Contracts may go for this build with the Ardent Sensor and Athenes. As far as how do you become involved in the late game team fights, because you can't dive in when everyone's really fed. Just Ardent Sensor, attack speed booster, 80 carry, because Smoothie, even though he has Ardent Sensor as well, can't always be applying it to Sneaky since he's diving in for those engages. So one potential use there for Contract is just to try and make Sneaky a super carry in the late game.
Yeah, and I mean, it really does nullify a lot of the poke coming out from CLG, simply because you're getting increased healing on the Ardent Sensor, you're getting the bonus healing from the Athenes as well on any poke that you're getting off, so it does kind of turn you into almost a secondary support. Oh, that feels bad.
Yeah, Sneaky able to take the 80 gold and the vision there from the Speed Shrine. The Scuttle Crab goes over to Cloud9. Still another fight brewing back around the Baron area, and a big wave pressuring CLG on the bot side.
Yeah, and that wave can't be answered because Darshan doesn't have teleport. So C9 is getting such a big advantage. There's so many minions dying here, and C9 just has to back off as the Mega Gnar is popped. And then they can begin to pressure once more.
Yeah, not having the teleport is hurting CLG here, and they don't have the vision control currently to be the ones forcing these fights. They didn't get Jensen or Sneaky's flash in the last engagement, so the threat of a body slam isn't nearly as potent.
Sneaky, also pushes yet another wave towards that top lane. So CLG going to be scattered across the rift in just a moment. Impact going to be the first one to face check. He's got a stone plate already completed.
And Darshan is actually kind of sneaking down in the jungle, perhaps seeing if he could actually get behind these guys, but decides to come back up.
Yeah, I mean, his Mega Gnar is nowhere close to being up right now. Stixxay was also just off in the side wave trying to push something. Still, C9 focusing around this Baron, hoping to draw some type of fight out. Interesting how they're not going harder on the Baron because they have so much control and CLG has so few ways of accurately scouting it right now, but alas, they fight for mid lane priority.
And they know they're getting side lane advantages, right? So for now, it seems like they are happy to just play the game slow, say, hey, we have that Triss scaling, we have these guys that buff them up with the Ardent Sensor, but it looks like CLG is trying to force.
Another great stun there from Jensen, as Darshan might have thought about hopping in.
CLG doesn't have a huge amount of options right now because they don't have the teleport on Darshan to start the split push, and they don't want to give up mid lane priority because that's the main thing they're sticking around Baron for. So this is a situation where CLG is okay keeping it set, right? If they can wait here until Darshan can set up a split push again, that's what they want. Impact though, Darshan.
Darshan, the fight is going to start. The knockup lands in onto the Gnar, but now Impact in the front side going to take it all up. Pops the Stoneplate ulti, finds only one, but it is Sneaky. Smoothie dances back in for the shield. Then Sneaky able to take out Stixxay on the front side. Double stop. There for Jensen. Knockup as well from Smoothie. Unstoppable for the Syndra. C9 with another fight.
Huge fight and engage there from Impact, knocking Stixxay back in with the flash, it looked like. They're going to go straight to Baron, and this is pretty much uncontestable.
Yeah, and the healing there for C9 really shined through. The shockwave connected onto the MR less Sneaky, but they healed him with Nidalee. He summoner healed, then he's full health, able to hop into those fights, and Stixxay was deleted after getting jumped on by Maokai.
Just a really good engage from Impact, and we're seeing how effective this Maokai can be. You know, Darshan is having trouble having the Mega Gnar at the right timings in these team fights, and despite the fact that, sure, great, he can win a long 1v1 in the side lane, Impact is not giving it to him. They are forcing well around their cooldowns, and Darshan just has not been very effective.
Well, an attempted trade here of the Drake will be unsuccessful for CLG. Cloud9 collect their mascot, is sneaky able to get that last hit and start a push down with the Baron onto this bot side. As we'll watch this team fight again, Impact just goes straight for it.
Darshan just off on the side. He was trying to poke for mid lane priority, but they're split up once again.
And then watch 6A here. Impact gets out of the route, just flash in. He's able to knock 6A back into the team. As 6A looked like perhaps was on an animation for his Q there. Does get just deleted though. Impact really with a nice play.
And there's the turret falling down as Cloud9 continue to find themselves further and further ahead. All of a sudden, 7,000 gold up as we crest the 32-minute mark. Tier 2 down in bot side, 1 left in mid to go for, and then CLG going to have to look at defending those inhibitor turrets and stopping the super minions from entering their base.
And in all these fights, Jensen's picked up the 6 kills, so he's a massive force now as well with all the items in his inventory. 10 stack Dark Seal. If he just gets enough orbs on the ground, he'll be able to one-shot 6A with an ultimate, since 6A is without magic resist. Oh man.
All right.
Without even an ultimate.
Maybe. It's a lot of damage. Poke as well. Hits from the spear as 6A forced to go back to the fountain.
C9 can just force this. I mean, they know 6A had to go back to the base, and they're going to start a fight.
You know, to Darshan again. He's not that tanky. All of the stun's going to land as the root connect from Impact. Darshan puts the flash out of the way. The flash onto who he doesn't quite get enough damage there from Jensen, but a 3-man stun is going to secure the knee and hit, and so much AoE damage out of the Syndra. Cloud9 brute force through CLG's base.
Move around the trap line. The trap line was set up bottom lane. C9 says, okay, we'll just push a different wave. No traps left to set up that siege. They eat a bunch of poke from Jensen, and C9 just move from lane to lane.
And Impact still has the Righteous Glory, still has the Stone Plate available, so this is a very easy potential dive if they want to go for it. They are going to back off, though. They have so much gold right now that they could actually look to spend up, you know, another 2,400 gold on Jensen, who is already massive. The scariest part about it to me is not that he could just one-shot the 80 carry, which he could. He could pretty much one-combo Darshan almost, who has no MR whatsoever. So even your tank line is not safe.
Yeah, we got to see Darshan there as Meganar flash away when C9 was funneling through a choke point. That was how much pressure C9 had in that instance. So that's just another defensive summoner spell that CLG had to use there that they can no longer try to engage a fight with. So definitely a lot of momentum for C9 now. They need to continue to make these plays to close out the game.
I mean, he does have one proper item slot left, but Jensen is effectively full build for just this portion of the game. Even the Dark Seal he picked up in lane is fully stacked from his 100% KP. So as far as power goes, C9 are very ready to try and end this game. CLG gonna have to look to defend.
Another critical item purchase for me is the Zhonya's on Nidalee. This means you actually can go somewhat offensive with that item. If he hits a spear on the right target, you could see him dive in to try to get that kill and finish out the game.
Sneaky again, also very strong. 3 items done with the QSS and the Vamp Scepter, so kind of has the utility behind those 3 big ticket damage items. As just spears are being thrown in by Contracts, who has a decent amount of AP thanks to that Thing's little passive.
Yeah, and he's also got a 7-second cooldown on a 7-second.
Oh, good play. He's deleted by Smoothie. There's a tank line. He's going to try and find out of the way. Impact into the backline, tying up 6A. So much damage. Tank line melts. Jensen goes good like a dart shot. Just evaporates under C9. 6A, the only one left with Afro. Afro's dead though, so never mind about that. 6A, the final bastion here for CLG in this game number 1 has to back all the way away.
Just a clean fight by C9. Strong initiation. They flash for him.
It again. Flash forward. There's the ace as Maokai gets the final kill, and Cloud9 will snowball the back end of this game. Contracts goes golden, and Cloud9 claim the first Nexus on their road to Worlds.
There was a question about C9 being rusty coming into this series. That one is now answered. 12 kills to 3. It was a very slow pace at the start of the game. Contract did show some over-aggression in the jungle, giving up first and second blood. But when they played around Baron, when it was Impact's time to initiate those fights, they pulled the trigger and they won the fights.
I think Impact had an incredible game, actually. Up in farm, in a lane where the Gnar got first blood on Nidalee. He started with the red buff, had counter pick. I think he played very well, and I do think that, you know, Darshan and CLG perhaps overestimated how good that matchup is, because Maokai can go pretty even and can really exploit you in the team fighting stage, and Impact did just that.
I agree, and I have to echo that the overall pace does not suit Cloud9 generally. That's usually what we attribute to CLG. So a very strange game, but certainly very successful there. I mean, CLG, I don't know if they have to press more, scale a little bit better. It is very tricky to kind of find out.
I mean, it's tough to say because a lot of the problem I think for CLG was the fact that all the kills went to the right direction. It felt like for C9. The fact that Jensen got that fed meant that their carries cannot really enter. Caitlyn is a lot weaker in the late game stages, and he was kind of the one that was ahead. It wasn't, Huhi on the Orianna, so it just didn't feel like they could actually answer these explosive initiations and burst down the front line fast enough.
Yeah, by the end of the games, the shockwaves were tickling C9, whereas Jensen with one stun combo was taking the front line to half health. So yeah, gold distribution a big thing, and even the pick ban strategy, trying to take the Ori away from Jensen, didn't work out.
Well, certainly good stuff there. But for more on that C9 win, let's check back in with the analysts.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. It was a slow starting game. Took a little while to open up, but then when C9 found their moment to strike, they did so and lead the series 1-0 over CLG. Let's pull up Champ Select and talk about this because given the evidence we have of CLG in their last series, it does feel like to some degree they were targeting bans based on what FlyQuest was successful against them with the J4, the Galio, and the Xayah all hitting the ban table in the first rotation.
It did feel very strange to me just because Galio is only going to be played by Impact, and he's going to play Maokai and Shen and all the tanks, and if you're only targeting one, you're not really limiting him that much. So I don't quite understand the Galio ban. If Jensen's on Galio, it's like, great, he can't go 9-0 and single-handedly smash us. Like, please, pick Galio C9. So that ban feels very weird to me.
All right, but in response, C9 end up with basically pure comfort across the board, and once again, we see this Nidalee come out with a new fancy build.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk about Cloud9's composition because during Champion Select, I was like, this is such a perfect, late game team fighting setup. They have Rakan, the best engager in the entire game right now for long range engagement. Maokai, the best follow-up engage for the frontline tank as well. And then the new Nidalee build. It's been running rampant through Master Solo Queue. They build, basically this build converts the early power that Nidalee has against tanks into late game support power. With the Ardent Sensor build, it doesn't even matter if you miss spears in teamfights anymore. Like Nidalee, her problem was, falling off later in the game in teamfights, but this converts her into like a Janna, from the jungle here for the late game. Huge attack speed if you just spam your heal on the AD carry, or even the Maokai as we saw, and keep your front line up. So it just, the team comp really got to shine in the 5-on-5s where it was built to.
I think CLG's team comp as well is no slouch. Both teams are basically 5v5 team fighting comps, and I think you give C9 a lot of credit for how they played those team fights out. But like you're saying, the early game for me was just kind of sloppy out of both teams, where they weren't actually able to convert what their comps wanted to do in the first 10 minutes.
I want to talk about sloppiness. Let's take a look at contracts then on that Nidalee because, although they did come away with the victory, 2 early deaths out of invades from him.
And this is a thing where, Nidalee wants to get a big CS lead, which is great, and she's doing that, but she keeps feeding that gold back over with these failed invades where she dies.
And it's a funny point, too, because even with the 2 deaths that he gave up going for these invades, he was still like 400-500 gold ahead of the Gragas because of, like we talked about earlier, Nidalee still has the ability to absolutely destroy other, tank junglers in the early game gold. And you're rushing for the same, jungle item, but then you convert your early power into usefulness for later, and this is what really bridges the gap.
Right, so that was nice that he was able to still pick up all that farm. At the same time, the ganks in the top and mid lane, which both had great setup in Syndra and Maokai, doesn't convert any kills. The Gragas, when he goes mid on the Syndra, gets a bunch of these flash body slams, doesn't convert any kills, and so you have both these teams kind of trying to execute their game plans, but coming up a little short.
I mean, it was very interesting, right? Because we had questions around CLG and Oh My God specifically, where would he decide to send his attention, knowing that C9 will typically play through the mid lane. He decides to go there as well, lend some support to Huhi, to no avail though. Each time he makes his visit there, Jensen avoids the gank, handing that gold over, able to extend the game till we get to the team fight phase, and that's where C9 took total control. 26 minutes into the game, 3 for 1 near the Baron.
And I think the big thing here is that just every time that C9 pulled the trigger, it was Mini-Gnar that they were fighting, and it felt almost impossible for CLG to fight on even footing. They also get the drop on them by having great vision control. Yes, they lost a dragon to get this, but they were able to convert that into these big engages.
Some unfortunate miscommunication there, it looks like, as Omar God flashed away from C9 members while the shockwave was coming through for Huhi, so not able to execute on their wombo combo. From the side of C9, to walk away from a full 5-man fight like that and have all of your health bars essentially full speaks to that Nidalee build and how they can really push through the 5v5 team fights with her heals.
Yeah, they have all the tools to deal with this team fight. Guaranteed engages from Rakan and a Righteous Glory on Maokai. Those are, 2 of literally the easiest in the entire game. and they're able to choose their fights like Mark was talking about.
The one thing that concerned me was they didn't pick up any objectives off that. It was a little weird because they had already taken so many up on the top side, but it's one of those things where you want to see like them explode. They had to take another team fight. That one also went completely in their favor, and as long as C9 is able to get the better of team fighting versus CLG in the series, I think they're well positioned to actually win it because CLG is most known for their team fighting, not crazy explosive early games.
I think coming out of that, oh, you got something you want to throw in there?
Just wanted to add that Cloud9 were really good in setting up the vision to prepare for these as well. So they kept on coming out, of Fog of War. And if you were waiting for that moment to see a Maokai and a Rakan charging you,
a little late.
Yeah. That's not going to be good for you. Syndra ended up with 4 kills. Of the 4 kills at the end of that replay, Jensen somehow manages to find the gold in every game that he plays. I'm constantly impressed by that, but you saw what that disparity in the gold lead started to mean, as Jat mentioned. He doesn't even have to be a threat to the back line anymore because he's now a threat to the front line of CLG.
Great thing about Syndra, you can shoot a stun through the front line and hit the back line as well.
Right, it still absolutely half helped them. CLG, being the lower seeded team here, does get side selection in games 2 and 4. They've opted to move to blue side, so both teams so far favoring blue side in this series, meaning they do want that first pick. We saw C9 go for the Rakan, have that engaged potential. What do you expect out of CLG and what they might change here in game 2 to tie us up at 1-1?
It's a little surprising just because CLG with their bans did not spend many on expected power picks, right? Like the Kalista was actually banned out by C9. CLG did ban the Jarvan, but that is something you can let through potentially. So I'm not sure what their big strategy change is going to be other than trying to get that first pick Rakan, because that's something that both teams have prioritized pretty heavily over the last part of the season. And it would be nice to get that, but then after that, what's the rest of your strategy going to be on blue side?
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see how they feel about the Nidalee because it wasn't the biggest part of the victory.
Right.
Even though in solo queue, the reaction has been, a lot of people just started banning the champion.
Right.
And, CLG might do that. But the bigger problems, I think, were the vision setups that allowed them to utilize this Righteous Glory Maokai and this Rakan
Right.
so effectively.
It's hard to justify banning a champion that invades into your jungle and dies twice, but then ends up winning the game. And you're like, wait, so was she effective or was she not?
And you're like, what happens if she doesn't come in, die twice? And she's got the CS lead, and I don't.
And she killed my top lane this time. So yeah, it can very easily go bad. I can see Nidalee ban, especially moving to blue side.
C9 up 1-0 in the series. We're going to see if CLG can fight back in game 2 after the break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the North American Regional Qualifiers.